Robin from Backscatter here, and today we're taking a look at the new Retra Strobe, which is the newest strobe to the underwater photography market. We think this thing is seriously cool, and we think you're going to want one as part of your system. So we're going to be taking a look at the shooting specs, the main features, the coolest accessories, and how to operate it. So let's break it down. It has a guide number of 30 and can shoot approximately 450 flashes on fully charged Eneloop batteries with a 2-second recycle time at full power. If you use the optional expanded battery pack, it'll double the flash count up to about 900 flashes, and it cuts the recycle time in half down to 1 second at full power. Now this is a super cool feature that we are really excited about. This battery pack is an additional accessory. It's not included with the strobe, but when you need both speed and power, this is a critical accessory to have. When rapid firing the strobe in air, it's able to crank out about 200 flashes at full power back to back before the thermal protection circuit kicks in. And with water cooling, you could exceed that approximate 200 rapid exposures. Not only is this more than enough performance for almost any subject or scene underwater, it also makes the Retra a rugged, go-anywhere, topside off-camera strobe. Now here I've got the Nikon D850 set at a continuous 4 frames per second, and the Retra set at just below quarter power, and it has no problem keeping up. The beam angle is 110 degrees and can be expanded up to 130 degrees when shooting with the wide-angle diffuser. The color temperature ranges from 5300 Kelvin to 5600 Kelvin depending on your power output. We test all of our strobes here in our shooting studio using a light meter, and we measure the beam angle brightness at 0 degrees right in the dead center, then out at 30, 60, and 90 degrees to measure the fall off of the light. The Retra stacks up quite well against all of our previously tested strobe models. The previous brightest strobe, the CNC YS250, is still not quite as bright as the Retra right in the dead center of the beam, though the YS250 does still have a more consistent brightness across the entire beam angle, whereas Retra falls off a little bit more towards the edges. Now we're still only talking about a difference of about a half stop of light here, so it's not a huge difference. Considering you can't even buy a YS250 anymore, this makes the Retra the brightest strobe with the most consistency across the entire beam angle, more than any other current strobe we've tested. When you do throw a diffuser on it, it's going to increase that beam out to a wider angle at the cost of reducing the overall brightness across the entire beam. But even with the diffuser, the Retra is still about a half stop brighter, out to about 60 degrees, than the next highest ranking strobe that we've tested, the CNC YSD2. The strobe body itself is machined aluminum, so it sheds heat very well, and it's depth rated to 100 meters. It has a bayonet style mount incorporated into the front for seamless accessory support. It uses a standard 1-inch ball mount with an O-ring to pair to your control arms. The target light is 300 lumens, and it's located right behind the flash tube, so it's directly in line with the center of the flash beam. It automatically disables when the strobe fires. The strobe's operated with just 2 knobs, the mode switch on the left and the power dial on the right, so it's really easy to understand how it operates. The instruction manual is concise and limited to just this single card, but trust me, this is everything you need to know. Within about 15 minutes of taking this thing out of the box, you're going to understand every function and feature. It's just that simple. Turn the strobe to on or purple for electronic sync cable connection, STTL or blue for optical slave TTL or auto exposure, which has performed very well in our testing so far. You've also got slave or green for manual power optical slave, and it's even got an SOS or red mode, which uses the target light to signal SOS in Morse code. The power dial also allows you to control your power output in any manual mode. You can set it from full to minimum with 9 power levels, adjustable in half-stop increments. When in STTL mode, the power dial provides exposure compensation of up to 2 stops in half-stop increments in either direction. The lower the power output, the faster you'll be able to fire, and this thing fires fast. It's more likely you'll be limited by your camera's built-in flash recycle time than the Retra strobes. It can be configured with the electronic connector style of your choice, including CNC, Nikonos, Icolite, and even Subtronic. When connected electronically, you can only use manual power output. There's no electronic TTL, but it does have a great optical TTL ability. Speaking of optical, here's the optical sensor for triggering from your camera's flash or LED trigger. Now, this cover allows you to use a CNC style fiber optic cable, or you can thread it off to reveal the Enon style connection, so it's basically universally compatible. We like that the optical sensor is on the back, so there's less chance of a sync cord dangling across the front of your flash bulb. Also, because the optical sensor is external, it opens up the possibility for remote slave triggering. There's also a handy feature built into the optical mode. The Retra has a smart learning mode where you can program it to remember your camera's pre-flash pattern. Now, you never need to worry about what pre-flash cancellation mode you're in, just set it once and it'll sync with your camera until you choose to reprogram it. There's also a battery life indicator on the front of the strobe with 4 LEDs that each represent 25% of your remaining battery life. This is going to display for 5 seconds upon powering it up, then it'll deactivate so it's not constantly drawing battery power. Now, this battery indicator is specifically calibrated for Eneloop batteries, and those will also give you the best performance from the strobe. You can use any high-quality AA rechargeable nickel metal hydride batteries, but don't use any other type of battery, such as lithium-ion, otherwise you can experience some problems. The strobe will give you an audible confirmation upon recycling the capacitors, which can be disabled if you choose, but what we think is cool is that the strobe can actually be fired faster than the confirmation it provides you with. Basically, as long as the capacitors have any charge in them, or at least enough to fire, then they will fire. This gives you the power as a photographer to decide how you want to shoot. If some epic moment is going down right in front of you, it's your call to fire away semi-automatic style, however, not at the full capacity of the power level you're set at, or you can wait until that recycle is confirmed and shoot a little more conservatively, though still relatively very fast. This call is yours to make, as opposed to being limited by what your gear can do. Now let's take a look inside the battery compartment. You'll notice the battery contacts down here are super thick and durable. Flooded battery compartments are the most common repair we perform here at Backscatter. We do it literally every day, and it runs almost $200 on average depending on the strobe model. With the Retra, if you flood your battery compartment, just get out of the water as soon as your safety protocols allow, ditch those batteries, flush out the compartment with fresh water, and then scrape any salt or corrosion off of those battery contacts. Let that dry thoroughly and ensure there's no salt or moisture lingering, and you are good to go. And speaking of leaks, if there is ever any water in the front half of the strobe, it's covered under warranty, no questions asked. The Retra includes a 2-year manufacturer's defect warranty. This gives you the peace of mind that the manufacturer has you covered in the unlikely case of a failure. Now let's check out some of the accessories. There are 3 diffusers included: a wide angle for increasing the beam angle to 130 degrees with a temperature of 4500 Kelvin and an output reduction of -0.6 stops. The white diffuser has an increase of the beam angle up to 120 degrees with a temperature of 5200 Kelvin and a reduction of -0.2 stops. Or there's the shark diffuser for getting some warmer tones on large pelagic animals with a 110 degree beam angle, 4400 Kelvin temperature, and reduction of -0.8 stops. Now, all of these diffusers easily mount on the bayonet and lock in place, then you can just rotate them off again. Plus, you can easily clip them off to your BC, so you can always have all of your diffusers with you. You also get a reduction ring that cuts down the beam angle. This is helpful for low visibility situations when shooting wide angle, since it can help you avoid creating backscatter in your images. By narrowing that beam, you can light just your subject, similar to how you would use barn doors on studio lights, instead of lighting up all that surrounding water like you would when using a diffuser with the wider beam angle. This eliminates the reflections that are created from all the particulate matter in the water, which is what causes backscatter in your images. It also includes a protective ring that mounts on the bayonet and keeps that front element of the strobe safe. If you look closely, the element actually protrudes just past that aluminum portion of the body, so this protective ring gives you a little more protection against scratches and impact. I'd recommend keeping this on at all times unless another accessory is needed. This also allows you to easily set the strobe face side down, which is best for battery swaps. And finally, you get a neoprene protector that helps provide that extra layer of material to protect your precious gear in sometimes risky aquatic situations. So now that you're fully familiar with the strobe itself, let's take it a step further and talk about the snoot. If you're not familiar with them, a snoot severely tapers down that strobe beam angle to selectively light macro-sized subjects, or really for any number of creative applications. Retra calls their snoot the light shaping device, or the LSD for short. It mounts easily onto the bayonet, and you can use a set of masks to pick your aperture or even decide whether to use a double beam or a creative shape like a square, opening up a lot of creative opportunities. This is an easy way to throw some variety into your images and mix up traditional styles, which always serves as good motivation to get out and shoot more. The bottom line is that the Retra Strobe is a rugged, versatile, and creative underwater flash system. Between its durable aluminum construction, the brightness and the consistency of the beam angle, the expandable battery pack, and the bayonet mount, it's sure to be an excellent lighting solution for any underwater photographer. As always, please help us create more of this content by purchasing your underwater imaging equipment from our team here at Backscatter. We always offer free lifetime tech support on every purchase, and we actually dive, shoot, and service everything we sell. So when you call up needing a little bit of help, you're getting it from a real diver with real underwater experience with this gear. I'm Robin from Backscatter signing off, and don't forget to check those O-rings.